No Return is officially finished. Bam. That's right, the Cinema Slice film No Return that I wrote last December and we shot in March. It's 100% finished. I think we made an awesome movie. I couldn't be more excited to share it with everybody. As I'm sure you well know if you were involved with the production at all, we managed to shoot this film in about 3 days at the beginning of March, just before the COVID pandemic kind of caused lockdown in Central Ohio. And I used my time throughout this quarantine for the last couple months to do edits. Editing No Return actually helped me to stay sane throughout this quarantine. I put in more post-production hours in this project than I really intended to. Edit and the compositing and the finessing. But again, if I didn't have that to work on, I don't know what I would have done to keep my sanity throughout the quarantine. So it's been quite the experience. The music is finished and the soundtrack is amazing. Thanks to Austin Michael Riley. He composed original music for this film, which really helps to support the tone of the film. It's my pleasure to have worked with Austin. He put together some great music to really help knock this film out of the park. And I just want to speak to my process, my post-production process a little bit. So of course, after I do my initial edit, I do an export and I watch it through and I make a list of notes. I do that probably 5, 6, 7 more times, just kind of carving it out a little bit more, refining it a little bit further. And then once I'm happy with the edit, then I did a color pass. We shot this film on 3 different rigs. Gage had a camera that we shot on. We also shot on the Canon C100. And finally, we shot some of the break-in scenes on a GoPro. So we had to standardize the color between those 3 different rigs. After that's done, then I go through and do some more intense color grading to help accentuate the mood of the scene and so on. Of course, every time I get in there to do color, I'm also modifying and tweaking the edits a little bit. Of course, I had to do some compositing throughout the way. For those that don't know what I mean by that, for instance, there was one shot that had a light stand in the background, and it happened to be our best take. So I rotoscoped that light stand out of the background. So now you can't even tell it was there. I could go on and on. There's a whole probably 2-3 dozen instances where I had to composite out things in the scene in order to make it more pleasant to watch. After the compositing, we went into music. Finally, when I felt confident enough that the edit was locked and maybe the color wasn't finished or the sound production wasn't completely finished, that's when I send an MP4 over to Austin to develop music. Of course, along with the MP4 file, I also send a list of notes for each scene. And what he came back with impressed, as always. He's a talented musician and he performed all of the instrumentation live. And at that time, I also started to develop sounds. And so I worked with Michael Wellborn, again with Austin. We walked around with recorders and came up with Foley and sound effects wherever needed throughout the film. I synced up the audio from Austin. I made a few final tweaks and edits. At that point too, when it's that close to the finish line, I'm also doing some really neat finishing stuff, some fun work, some creative color correction, some intense color grading and that kind of thing. And then I built my credit scenes, my end animations. So last week I exported what I thought would be the final version of the film, and then I watched it on television with a decent sound system, and I noticed a few more tweaks I wanted to make. So I went through and I trimmed out a couple seconds here, 10 seconds here, 2 seconds here, 5 seconds there. Then we re-exported. I sent the final audio mix over to Austin to do a final compression on the film, and here we are with the finished film. No Return is complete, and as you may know, we're working on a theatrical premiere for the film. Of course, with the current situation with the global pandemic, theaters are a little apprehensive about allowing us to show a film right now. We're looking at September or October to do a theatrical premiere. I really would love to do a red carpet event to thank all the cast and crew. We're working. I know Chris and Paul are trying really hard. They reach out to numerous theaters in the Central Ohio area, and we're working on finding something. Hopefully we'll have more information on that soon. But yeah, I just wanted to do a quick one of these vlogs and let everyone know that it's finished. No Return is done. Hopefully we can find a theater that'll support our release here over the coming months, but stay tuned for that date, and thanks for tuning in. Slice the Planet.